What's going on, guys, and welcome to the FPL Game Week 2 preview, and we're going to be looking at the most recent news that is relevant to FPL, which does include Dominic Solanke being injured, and we're also going to be answering some of your dilemmas ahead of Game Week 2. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to start off by talking about Dominic Solanke, and I'm going to be honest, guys, if you own Dominic Solanke, it is not looking good. Ange Postecoglou has just said in his most recent press conference that he is injured and he will miss the Game Week 2 fixture against Everton at home. As you guys can see by this quote, alright, this is the quote from Ange Postecoglou in his most recent press conference. He said that Dom picked up a knock in the last game. He got through the game, but it flared up the day after, and he'll miss the game tomorrow. So that does confirm that Dominic Solanke will miss the Game Week 2 fixture at home to Everton. We don't know how long he's going to be injured for, but what is 100% is that he will miss the Game Week 2 fixture. Now, I guess the question is for you Solanke owners, sort of what do you do? Do you keep him? Do you transfer him out? But for me, if I'm not someone who owns Dominic Solanke, but if I did, I would probably be looking to transfer him out, because he's going to miss the good fixture against Everton at home, and then if he does come back for Game Week 3, it's a tough game against Newcastle away, and then a tough game against Arsenal at home. So yeah, I would probably be looking to get rid, because there are some good other strikers with much better fixtures that we know are going to play. For example, my best possible replacements for Solanke would be Rodrigo Muniz as my #1 pick, then maybe Jean-Philippe Mateta, and then Adam Armstrong. And the reason why I'd go for Muniz as my #1 is simply because the fixtures are just really good for Fulham. They've got great fixtures, and he's a good long-term hold. All right, the fixtures for Fulham are good for like the next 5 to 6 game weeks. So I think Muniz could be a great shout. Last season we saw, how good Muniz was when he was starting. He did go through a great patch of scoring goals. He finished the season with 9 goals in 18 starts. So I am pretty confident with Rodrigo Muniz. He's 6 million as well. So not only do you get a player that starts with good fixtures, but you also get to free up some funds, and then you can reinvest those funds into maybe your midfield or defense. So I do like Muniz as a pick. Another good option in my opinion is Jean-Philippe Mateta. We saw him start the last game against Brentford in Game Week 1. Yes, I know he did come off at half time, but you'd assume that, in Game Weeks 2 and 3, he's going to get more minutes. So maybe we could be looking at 60 to 65 minutes in Game Weeks 2, and then maybe 70 to 80 minutes in Game Weeks 3. So I think Mateta could be a good shout, because again, the fixtures are pretty good for Palace. And then one of my sort of cheaper differential options is actually Adam Armstrong from Southampton. He's 2 million cheaper than Solanke. So the idea behind it is that you get a good player that we know is going to get good minutes for Southampton, but also has good fixtures, but you also get to free up some funds as well. So you'd end up freeing up around 2 million, and then again you can reinvest it into your midfield or defense. So these are probably my top 3 replacements. I know there is Chris Wood there with the good fixtures, but at the time of recording, Nottingham Forest are really pursuing another striker. They're looking to get Eddie Nketiah, so I'm just not too sure. And also because of Taiwo Awoniyi, there's just potential for early substitutions with Chris Wood. So I'm not really the biggest fan of Chris Wood at the moment. I wouldn't be looking to transfer him in. I'd describe that pick as a very short-term pick, maybe for the next 1 to 2 game weeks. But after Game Week 3, I would be very worried about Chris Wood. And again, we don't know if we don't know if Nottingham Forest will end up signing Eddie Nketiah. So yeah, these are my top 3. But let me know down below in the comments, do you have Solanke, and what are your plans with Solanke? Are you going to hold? Are you going to bench him? Or are you just simply going to transfer him out? Let me know down below in the comments. So since we're on the topic of Tottenham Hotspur, I thought I'd let you guys know that Pedro Porro is fit to play, guys. There were some doubts about whether he would be fit to play Game Week 2, as in Game Week 1 we did see him come off the pitch injured towards the end of the game, but he was in training earlier this week, and also Ange Postecoglou did confirm in his most recent press conference that Pedro Porro is fit to play. As you guys can see by this quote on screen, Ange Postecoglou did say that Richarlison is fit to start if required, Pedro Porro is fine, and Rodrigo Bentancur will miss the game through concussion. So yeah, as you guys can see by that quote, Pedro Porro is fine to play. So we would assume that Pedro Porro is going to start Game Week 2, which is very nice. So we're going to be moving on to Erling Haaland, and we're going to be answering some of your questions that I have seen on my TikTok. For example, should non-Haaland owners take a hit to bring him in? Well, my answer to that would be no. Guys, if you don't own Erling Haaland, I know he's got a great fixture against Ipswich at home in game week 2, but I would not be taking a hit to bring him in, especially if you've got someone like Salah, and especially if you're taking out Salah to get Haaland in. At the end of the day, you guys have to realize that you made the conscious decision to not include Haaland in your team, knowing that he has Ipswich at home in game week 2. So why would you take a hit and sort of mess up your entire team just to bring Erling Haaland in? I wouldn't do that. I would stick to the original plan that you had before game week 1, before the game week 1 deadline. I wouldn't be taking a hit to bring him in. I personally don't think it's worth it. Yes, I know it's a great fixture. Yes, I know he's a great captaincy option, but for me, I don't think it's worth sort of messing up your team to take a hit, to take a -4, or to even take a -8 to bring in Erling Haaland. I don't think it's worth it. And like I said, especially if you do have Mohamed Salah this week is still a really good captaincy option. So yeah, I wouldn't be taking hits to bring in Erling Haaland. So another big talking point around the FPL community has been, should Haaland owners triple captain Haaland against Ipswich at home? And this is an interesting one. Honestly, I don't think there is necessarily a right or wrong answer, of course. Me personally, as someone who owns Haaland, I'm not going to be doing it. I prefer to use my triple captains in a double game week because I just feel like the ceiling is just so high. But there is a good point, and shout out to Ben Crellin on Twitter, who's always good for sort of this double game week talk. He just knows it all. I don't know how he does it, but he just knows everything. He's the go-to person when it comes to sort of double game weeks and blanks information. But as you guys can see on screen, he sort of said he thinks the safest triple captain strategy is to save it and see what happens with the double game weeks later. He said that the worst case scenario is that we only get 2 double game weeks this season, guys, alright? That's sort of the key information, that it is sort of likely that we only get 2 double game weeks this season. Yes, there could be more, but that's only if something unexpected happens to cause an extra blank. So at the moment, we're only looking at 2 double game weeks. So I guess the question is, because we've got so many chips, we've got the triple captain chip, we've got the bench boost chip, we've got the free hit, and also the mystery chip. But at the moment, as it stands, only 2 double game weeks to use these chips. You could make a point to argue that you know, triple captain Erling Haaland in game week 2 is a good play because you've only got 2 double game week slots, and you might want to use a free hit in a double game week. You might want to use your bench boost in a double game week. So yeah, I guess it's totally up to you to decide what chip strategy suits your team the best. I think that's just the best, or maybe the best advice I could give you. It's all team dependent and it's all relevant to your team strategy. Like I said, me personally, I prefer to use the triple captain chip in a double game week, but it's all dependent on what you prefer for your chip strategy. But yeah, like I said, guys, I don't think we're going to be able to use every single chip we have in a double game week. I think there are going to be some chips we have to use in a single game week this season. So again, with that information, are you going to decide to use your triple captain in a single game week? That's totally up to you. But like I said, guys, it's a tough one, but I think there are some pros to it. There definitely are some pros to it. Like, we know Haaland is on penalties. We know he's going to get 90 minutes because there's no sort of rotational possibilities here because there is no Champions League. It's the start of the season. Haaland's fresh. He had a good pre-season. So these are the pros, but I guess the cons are that you're using the triple captain in a single game week. That's really the only con I can think of, really, because if there were no double game weeks throughout the season at all, I'd say it's completely valid to triple captain Haaland now. But like I said, the only con for me is that you'd be using the triple captain in a single game week. But guys, it's totally up to you. I'm personally not going to do it, but like I said, it's totally up to you. So we're going to be talking about what to do with Christopher Nkunku. And guys, if you are someone who owns Christopher Nkunku, I would keep him for now. I think I wouldn't get rid of him just yet. I think it's too soon. Yes, I know he blanked against Manchester City. Yes, I know he did get subbed off against Manchester City. But one thing I will say is that I don't think you put him in your team expecting him to return against one of the best teams in the world against Manchester City. That's the first thing I will say. That was always going to be a tough game for him. And in regards to the early substitution, I would just wait and see for game week 2. Let's see what happens in game week 2. If he gets another early substitution in game week 2, if he comes off around the 60th minute in game week 2, then fine. I would get rid of him after that, because I think then we have enough information to sort of say that Nkunku is a minutes risk at this moment in time. But if Nkunku does get good minutes against Wolves, which is a good fixture, by the way. If he gets good minutes, if he sort of gets, you know, 75 to 80 plus minutes, then I think he's a hold. I think he's a keep. I think you should keep him in your team because the upcoming fixtures are really, really good for Chelsea. So if he gets good minutes, then I think he's a fantastic option, and he's someone that I think you shouldn't sell because, like I said, the fixtures are good. In game week 3, it's Crystal Palace at home. In game week 4, it's Bournemouth away from home. In game week 5, it's West Ham away, and in game week 6, it's Brighton at home. So if Nkunku is getting good minutes in all of these games, then he remains a great option in FPL. So that's what I would do with Nkunku. I just wait one more week just to see how many minutes he does get in the next upcoming game week. But if you are someone who disagrees with me, if you are someone who's sort of just saying, you know what, nah, I don't want it, I think he's a 100% a minutes risk, I'm not really a fan of the Nkunku pick anymore, I want to jump off him, then these are the players that I would sort of look to bring in. So I think Smith Rowe is probably the best Nkunku replacement if you are looking to get rid of Nkunku this week. I mean, Fulham have some really, really good fixtures in the next 5 to 6 weeks. You know, they have Leicester at home in game week 2, Ipswich away in game week 3, West Ham at home in game week 4, Newcastle at home in game week 5 as well. I think the fixtures for Fulham are really, really good. So Smith Rowe would be my number one choice if you were looking to get rid of Nkunku this week. But if you are willing to sort of wait 1 week, like I said, and see how many minutes he does get, and if he doesn't get good minutes, you want to jump off Nkunku, then I think Leon Bailey is probably the best bet because in game week 3, he's got, from game week 3 onwards, the fixtures are really, really good for Aston Villa. So I like Leon Bailey as a pick. I think he could be a really, really good Nkunku replacement. Now, if you are someone that was sort of looking to give Nkunku 1 to 2 more games and you're a bit more of a patient manager, then I'd recommend Minte and Mitoma. Both of those two are really, really good Nkunku replacements a little bit later on down the line from game weeks 4 and onwards, because in game weeks 4 and 5 specifically, they've got some really, really good fixtures at home to Ipswich and at home to Nottingham Forest. So I really, really do like the Brighton picks, and like I said, I think they're good picks if you're more of a patient manager who's willing to give Nkunku 1 or 2 more game weeks. So yeah, that's what I would say. These are probably my favorite Nkunku replacements. So what should you guys do with Quansah and Barco? Well, let's quickly talk about it. First things first, with Quansah, he did drop in price to 4.4 million. So if you haven't sold him already, I'd probably just keep him. And the reason why I would keep him is because now if you do get rid of him at 4.4, you can only move to a 4 million defender, and I just don't think that's worth it. You're better off saving the transfer if your team's in a good place, and then using the 2 free transfers to maybe downgrade someone else and then upgrade Quansah. But there's just simply no point, in my opinion, to sort of take out Quansah at 4.4 million and then downgrade him to a 4 million. I don't think that's going to help you. I think the ceiling is much higher if you roll the transfer with 2 free transfers and then change him after that. So I would roll the transfer if I was someone who owned Quansah. I just don't see the point in going to a 4 million defender. I think, like I said, the ceiling and potential sort of for your team is much better with rolling the transfer and then using 2 free transfers to upgrade him. But also, one thing I want to point out as well, a new update that we got from Arne Slot in his most recent press conference, is that Quansah could be injured. He said, as you guys can see here is the quote. He spoke to Quansah immediately after the game on Sunday, and on Tuesday he picked up a bit of an injury, so let's see if he can train today. So yeah, that also kind of confirms that Quansah is a risk of start. We all know that he was a risk already because he did get subbed off at half time, but some people are sort of, you know, speculating that he might start against Brentford, but I don't think that's going to happen because Arne Slot has also confirmed that he has a bit of a knock as well, a bit of an injury. So yeah, Quansah owners, I'm not going to lie, it's not really looking good for you. The best thing to do, in my opinion, is to just simply bench him this week. If you've got Quansah, I would probably just bench him if I'm honest. So if you are someone who owns Barco and you didn't know this already, according to Fabrizio Romano, Sevilla have reached a verbal agreement with Brighton to sign Valentin Barco on a loan deal. So that does mean Barco is no longer going to be playing with Brighton. So what to do with him is the question. I personally would just bench him for now. I wouldn't go transferring him out. I don't think it's worth using a free transfer on a 4 million defender. Like I said, going from one 4 million defender to another 4 million defender just doesn't make sense to me. I personally wouldn't do it. And yes, if there was the risk of him dropping down in price, then yes, I would be for it, because, you know, losing 0.1 value at this stage of the season probably isn't ideal. So if he was going to go down to 3.9, then fine, I understand it, but it's not looking likely. It's not looking likely that Barco will go down to 3.9. I've been checking FPL statistics, and if you don't know what that is, it's a website where you can check FPL price changes, and he's very far off dropping in price, and I think that's because a lot of people have other things to deal with, other priorities. For example, people were dealing with Quansah earlier on in the week. People now have to deal with Dominic Solanke, so I think we're pretty safe for now. And once the official FPL sort of locks his price, once they change his status, officially change his status to on loan to Sevilla, once the official FPL do that, then his price then will be locked. So I think we're pretty safe now with Barco. I wouldn't panic, I wouldn't do much, I would just simply bench him and leave him there, in my opinion. So that's going to be it for the Game Week 2 preview, guys. I really hope you did enjoy the video, and if you did, smash a big thumbs up on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. And guys, I'll be doing a deadline stream tomorrow morning, so make sure you do stay tuned for that one. But until then, guys, I'm out. Peace.